Hello, welcome back. This is Jeff Byers, instructor for ANI 150, Module 4, UV mapping the sci-fi weapons. So what I did was I ended up getting everything laid out. So basically laid out all the UVs in a UDIM tile format. And you can see here, we'll just take a look at this real quick. I've got 16 UDIM tiles all set up. And everything makes sense to me. You know, if you look at it, there's wasted space. If this was a gaming piece and I needed everything to be actually set up into one UDIM tile or one tile, I would probably go 4096 by 4096 and pack it really tight. In UDIMs, you have a little more leniency as far as spacing and using. Of course, you want to try to use as much UDIM tile as you possibly can. So I've got several pieces, and I basically structured mine into the different materials I want to use. And you know, this just gives me a lot more freedom if I do end up wanting to do more to add and separate the materials a little bit more. Now this does add a lot to the amount of RAM that you're going to be taking. So just kind of let you know that I saved this out as a 2048 by 2048. So once I got everything set up, okay, I'm going to move this to the side. I went ahead and triangulated it. So I combined it. So I selected all the pieces, and I went ahead and clicked on this guy right here, or you can go in here to go to mesh and combine the pieces together. So it combines it as one. You need to rename this low poly. Okay, and you need to triangulate it. So it needs to be triangulated. Mesh, triangulate. Now make sure you duplicate this, because I have a low poly here, right there. That's untouched. So I can show off my all my edge loops and stuff in here and how I constructed it. It's a lot harder to see it when you triangulate it. It's a lot uglier. To me, this looks a lot cleaner, a lot nicer to look at. So I always show this off if I'm going to do wireframe. So always duplicate before you do a triangulate. Okay, always duplicate before you triangulate. So triangulation, you just select the object and go to mesh, triangulate. Okay, go ahead and triangulate it. Nothing changes in your UV editor. They're all fine, and they even triangulate for you, so you're good to go with that. Once that's done, you're going to want to center pivot, delete by type history, and freeze transformations. Okay. You need to have your low poly or your high poly ready to go as well. So here's my high poly ready to go. You probably need to rename that high poly. Okay. So if you were to bring this in, just a word of warning, if you were to bring this into Mudbox and add little pins, screw heads, just other detail that you'd like to add to this before you bring it in and bake it out into Substance Painter, you would have to go in there and get these edge loops a little more consistently spaced. What do I mean by that? Well, let's turn that off and turn that back on. You can see I got a medium poly here. So let's just say I want to look at that piece. I want to separate everything, and let's just go ahead and select this piece here. And I think I've showed you this in another video, but just real quick, I'll isolate that. And you're going to want to insert edge loops and just kind of get those edge loops to be consistent throughout. It doesn't have to be perfect, but they do have to be pretty consistent. And so the only way to do that is to go in there and just start edge looping, adding edge loops where you can. And once you do that, just do a couple. You don't have to do everything. Just probably areas that you know is going to be an issue or a problem. Let's go ahead and do that right there. right here, right here, and right here. Let's go this, this, and this. And maybe do a couple here. And one right there. Everything else looks pretty good. Maybe a couple here and here. There we go. So you don't have to, like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. Obviously, you can look at this, and then when you go in here to go to mesh smooth, right? So mesh smooth. Let's go into smoothing. And what you would do, you wouldn't smooth it now. Okay, you won't smooth it now. You'll smooth it in Mudbox. You'll save it out as is, just with those extra edge loops. But I just wanted to show you what it looks like when you do smooth. There you go. So now you can see those. The grid is a lot more. It's just more spaced evenly, and that's the idea, is to make sure everything's spaced evenly. So when you do paint, you know, in the alpha map channel and push or pull the object up and out using alpha maps to add to the detail, this will really help. Keep that in mind. I'm not going to do it here, you know. That's a lot of work. I would only do it on the panels that you're going to actually do it on, and leave the rest. Okay, and you can do that. So you could do like this panel and add it to the high poly, okay, object. Oh yeah. Go in here and let's open everything back up again. Control 1. Okay, so you take that and you would copy it, duplicate it, and put it on the high poly, and take that one out that you have here and put the other one in, and that would give you consistent edge loop. So you could send that entire thing out and just add detail to just that one piece if you wanted to. Those are ways you can go back and do that kind of thing, do that kind of work. It's up to you what you want to do. As it is right now, I tend to like to model my own work, model my own stuff. If I want to put a screw head on there, I would do something like this. And let me go ahead and isolate this so I don't have anything in the way. And let's go ahead and scale that down. There we go. And go to the side view. Go to face mode and just deselect the faces here. Okay, let's go isolate that again. Alright, so now I can squash it to be like a rivet head. Just as added detail. Go to edge mode and do Control E. And scale that in like that, and Control E. There we go. A lot of times I'll go in here, and so it's not flat, perfectly flat, right there. I scale it in just a little bit, just to give it some, just a little bit of edge right there. That's kind of important there. That. Alright, cool. And then what I'll do is take that, move it away, and go ahead and turn on the high poly. There you go. And just place it, move it onto this object here, like that. Hit the F key a lot. I kind of go inside the model too, just to kind of make sure everything's okay in there. There we go. And so this is my rivet, and I can place that on there anywhere I want and duplicate that. You know, and add as much detail as I want. It's really up to you how you want to detail this model yourself. I tend to do a lot of work, and I want you to kind of put your own detailing on to your object. It's up to you how you want to detail it, at how you add detail in there. You know how to do it. You've done the crate already. You know how to do high poly with Mudbox. You know how to use alpha maps. Watch those videos again, and then what you do is you basically combine everything together, all the modeled pieces, or you can either do it in Maya or you can do it in Mudbox. Whatever you're comfortable with. If you want to add pieces like this, like little pieces like that stick out, and you'll have to bake those in Substance Painter with the high poly, but if you're gonna just go in without any of this extra detail, and without that added stuff, you can just go ahead and take that stuff out. And what I would suggest that you do is that you're gonna have your low poly triangulation, right? Triangulated, and you're gonna save out your map. Make sure you save it out. So make sure you're in object mode. Save it out as a PNG, 2048 by 2048. You'll have 16. Well, you'll have something different, and I don't know how many UDIM tiles you'll have. I've got 16. That's a lot. You may want to go less. If you have a system that is having a hard time with UDIM tiles and saving and exporting and all that stuff, you may want to go less than that. Whichever you're comfortable with, it's fine with me. Just remember, it could crash on you if you have a system that doesn't have much RAM. And the video RAM has a lot to do with it too when you're working in Substance Painter. Keep that in mind too as well. So, the fewer the maps, if you have a system that just is a smaller system, and you kind of are stuck with something that's a little bit lower, like 4 gigs of RAM with video memory and maybe 8 gigs of RAM, system RAM. So you may want to go less. I wouldn't go any more than maybe 8. Okay, and that's enough, you know. So once that's all done, you go ahead and click on this guy right here, save it out. You guys know how to do that. Just browse, tell it where you want it to go, PNG, and then make sure you type in the amount of UDIM tiles that you're actually using. Apply and close. Alright, so once you save that out, you're good to go. Apply and close. I've already done this. And so we're going to minimize that. And so now you're ready to save this out as a FBX. And you can save it out any way you like. So FBX, let's go ahead and export a selection. Okay. And we're going to, instead of OBJ, we're going to do an FBX. That works out just fine and dandy. So we're going to do FBX export, get out of here. And we're just going to type in, I think this is really good to do this, just type in your first name, your last name, and let's just put weapon low poly. There we go. Okay, export it. It's FBX. Make sure you have smoothing groups on, smooth mesh on. And I'm exporting it as FBX 2020. That's under FBX file format, and that is under advanced options on there. Okay, and so that's good. So I know that's what I need. Okay, and then we have the high poly. So now in Mudbox, just to kind of remind you guys, those of you that would like to take this high poly mesh and then add more like bolts and stuff like that, like we did. all the little details you'd like to add, you feel free to. I'm not going to have a whole video tutorial on that because we've already got that on the crate, so watch the crate videos again if you want to do that Mudbox. Okay, so you want to add details to the Mudbox, just make sure that you add be consistent with your edge loops, otherwise you're going to get some undesirable results. I would just do those on pieces that you know you're going to add detail to. Okay, the rest of them you don't need to go to all that trouble, because it does take some time to add edge loops that are distanced apart correctly. They're more, right now I've got a bunch of edge loops that are really close together here, and they're really far apart here. You have to be consistent and make sure that's happening. Like that handle is consistently good. I mean, it's the consistency of the width between the edge loops is good, and that's what you're looking for. Here it's not so good. But I didn't really care at the time. I wasn't really looking or thinking that I was going to bring this into Mudbox. But if you are, feel free to add those edge loops that are needed, so you can have better consistency in the distance between the edge loops. With that said, you do have to do a really quick automatic map with this. Okay, I know it sounds really crazy, but Mudbox needs you to map this. Once you do a high poly with Mudbox, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a duplicate of this, Control D, and I'm going to create a new layer. Okay, and in this layer, I'm going to turn that off. In this layer here, I'm going to call this Mudbox to say. Alright, and with this I need to do a UV map, so I'm going to need to go to UV editor and click on this, and right now Mudbox, the way it works is it needs to have the high poly, which is really weird. Needs to be UV map, so let's just do a quick one because it doesn't need to be great. So UV editor, and the best way to go about doing that is just to do UV automatic map, reset it, and just click project. It's going to take a while because this is a really high resolution object. There we go. And close. And there's nothing you need to do with this. Okay? For some reason, Mudbox just needs something. So make sure you save, click on this guy right here, and do the usual. And this will be your high poly UV map. You can go through the whole process, right? Now this one does not need to have UDIM tiles with it. Okay, it doesn't need to have UDIM tiles. You can just put 1-to-1 on there and apply and close. Okay, nothing special here. Okay, I don't know why Mudbox. Maybe it needs to read the UDIM or excuse me the shell, the UV shell per vertex. Maybe it needs that. So anyway, that's what you need to have for Mudbox. So I'm going to close this off, and what you want to do is go ahead and save this out. It's an OBJ or an FBX for Mudbox. I'm not going to do that right now. Okay, I'm going to close that one off, and I am going to send this one out. This is important. Okay, so this is the one I need. I'm going to go ahead and center pivot, delete by tab history, freeze transformations. And we're going to go ahead and send this out. Export selection, and this will be an FBX export. And you guessed it, I'll just click on the first one and just rename this high. There we go. Okay. Export selection. Now, if you see that my end result is different than yours as far as like adding pins and extra details, probably because I either went into Mudbox or I went into and modeled the extra detail that I wanted into the high poly and then brought it back into Substance. It's the same thing. Low poly, triangulated, high poly, added detail, and you bring it into Substance Painter, import it into Substance Painter with the UDIM tiles, and then you'll bake the texture maps with the high poly and the low poly, and you really won't use the high poly anymore. Once you get it baked, you're just baking because you need to have the cavity map, you need to have the curvature map, and you need to have the normal maps and the ambient occlusion maps. So those are really important maps to have. Okay? So that's what you're going to do with this. Once that's saved, you're good to go. Now you're ready to go into Substance Painter. And what I want you guys to do is, there's nothing different between what I'm going to do with the weapon than what I did with the crate. So my workflow will work exactly with the crate. So basically, we're going to, even though you're going to watch the crate again, okay, the workflow in the crate, it's the same way. It's the same thing. So watch those videos for the crate again if you've forgotten how to do it, because I'm not going to go and kind of regurgitate how to do all this, because we did it with the crate. Okay? If you have specific questions, just go ahead and ask me. And just ask me, email me at jbyers3@jcc.edu, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Again, it's the same process as we did with the crate, so please watch the crate videos. They're going to be in Module 4 as well. And if there's anything extra, I'll put it in there. Alright, you guys, good luck with everything, and I'll see you soon in Module 5.